Alright, 100 days in hardcore Minecraft as an assassin. Being an assassin, I could only use knives and daggers for combat, but that's not all. I also added really cool stealth and backstab mods to the game. If I was not in a mob's line of sight, it couldn't see me, letting me deal a ton of damage with stealthy backstabs. However, the big downside to that is that when I fail to kill a mob or it spots me in some way, it alerts the other mobs in the area, and when it comes to daggers, if you're not being stealthy, you're not really dealing damage. I also had tons of crazy mobs, dungeons, bosses, and more in this world, and I had to take all that on as an assassin. Also, if you're new here, subscribe, and if you're new here or also not new here, then maybe like the video, leave a comment, and while you're down there by the description, you can check out today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends, which is a free-to-play game for PC and mobile devices. This game features over 600 unique champions for you to collect and use to complete missions, take on dungeons, and fight insane bosses. And speaking of bosses, Raid just added the newest addition to their massive boss roster, the Hydra. The Hydra is the strongest and scariest boss yet, featuring multiple heads, each with unique abilities and mechanics. And the thing that I like the most about Raid is definitely gotta be summoning new champions. There are so many unique and different champions to collect, and getting a cool one is pretty hype. And if all of that is still not enough for you, Raid is also giving away the super limited edition champion, Simple, to every player. All you have to do is log in for 7 days between now and January 28th, and he's yours. If you want to get a big head start in Raid, you can either click the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on screen to get a bunch of free stuff as well as a free mystery champion. Now, I ain't gonna tell you who the mystery champion is, but trust me, they're pretty cool, so click that link and see who you get. All of the rewards will be available to you right here in your inbox. And the rewards are only available for 30 days to new players, so be sure to grab them while you can. Once you're in-game, you can find me under the name Special_, and if you're fast enough, maybe you can even join my clan. It is that easy. Either click the link or scan the QR code, and I will see you in-game. And without further ado, let's see how stealthy I can be in hardcore Minecraft as an assassin. Day 1, I spawned in the middle of a village. I immediately harvested a tree and made some wooden tools. And then I instantly grabbed some stone and upgraded to stone tools. And after making those, I grabbed the black wool from the villager's light pole, and then I used that to make 4 handles. Then with one of those handles, I made a stone dagger. My first assassin's weapon was acquired. This thing had a backstab bonus, and it could also be thrown, but I don't really want to throw my only weapon. However, while exploring the village, I did see an enchanted book for sale called Return. This made a thrown weapon come back to me, meaning I might have some good ranged options in the future. Then on the nearby mountain, I found ores for copper and tin, and after looking, it seemed like I could make some better daggers out of one of these. Then I went to a nearby river to grab some clay, and then I went back to the village. By then, the sun was setting, so I killed some sheep, made a bed, and slept. The next day, I made 2 furnaces, and then I began smelting the copper and the clay. Once I made 4 bricks, I made a pot, and then I used that to make stock. Stock was a relatively mediocre food, but it was easy to get a lot of, so I used this for like most of the 100 days. I then made a tin dagger, which was stronger than the stone one and also had more durability. I then made a tin pickaxe and axe, and after waiting for all the copper to smelt, I made a full set of copper armor. It wasn't great, but it would do. I then stored most of my stuff in the house that I was staying in, and then I went off to explore. I really wanted to gather iron for better gear and also see what else I could find. I saw a village made of endstone that seemed like it was populated by endermen, and yeah, I was going nowhere near that. I didn't want to fight any endermen right now. Just past that, I found a normal village with a blacksmith with some iron armor and an iron ingot. I put on the armor, and then I used the iron ingot to make an iron dagger. I began killing some animals to make a backpack with their drops, and by then the sun was setting and I didn't really want to deal with any nighttime mobs, so I slept off the night. The next day I was exploring this little water fountain that I found, and I saw an indicator on my screen that means a hostile mob spotted me. I looked around and then I saw a banshee just flying at me. It hits me and then it screams and does a ton of damage. It hits me again, nearly killing me, but luckily I hit it low enough that it tried to run away. In this mod pack, whenever a mob gets low enough, it tries to run away to alert other mobs, but luckily, that was the only mob in the area, so I was safe. And if that was not a feature, I would definitely be dead. I went to a cave for some iron, and then across the cave, I saw some pretty spooky looking mobs. I snuck behind a zombie, and then I stabbed it in the back, assassinating it. Whenever I assassinate a mob without it seeing me, I get temporary night vision, I become invisible, and also all the mobs around me glow through walls. I then assassinated all the other nearby creatures, making the cave a lot safer. I then took out a few weird creepers in that cave, and then a banshee spotted me. I jumped over the ledge of the cave out of the banshee's sight, and then the outline turned orange. What this means is that the mob was looking for me, but it had lost track of me, so I had no idea where I was. I then saw another banshee looking for me through a wall, and then I get shot and lit on fire. I looked around and I spotted a creeper robot thing shooting me with lasers. I managed to get behind a corner so it couldn't see me, but then it came over to that corner to look for me, and then it kept shooting. I got away, and if that entire situation taught me one thing, it's that the stealth mechanics were incredible. Like, actually, it was so enjoyable just being able to, like, sneak around and stab things in the back and all that fun stuff. It was crazy. I found another village and then I looted the blacksmith and I got an iron chestplate and an iron pickaxe. And after activating the waystone for that village, I saw a laser creeper riding a dinosaur. And knowing that something like that can just spawn during the day is probably the most anxiety-inducing thing ever, so that's fun. After harvesting that village's farm, it was nightfall, so I teleported home and slept off the night. The next day, I mined some coal from the nearby mountain, and then I made a sugarcane farm because most of the villagers in this village traded paper, and I kinda wanted to get enough emeralds for one of the return books. I then began smelting all the iron that I mined the day before. I then made a backpack and used some of the iron to upgrade it to an iron backpack. I then made an iron helmet, and now I wanted to get a lead. I went and traded some coal for an emerald, and then I made an item called a market. This would let me buy a lead for 1 emerald. All of the villagers that I had access to right now wanted either paper or coal for emeralds, so the next day I went and mined some more coal and then traded for another emerald. After buying a lead, I combined it with an iron pickaxe to make a grappling hook. I could now scale buildings and walls and stuff, and that could probably be pretty good for avoiding detection when being stealthy. I wanted to upgrade the grappling hook, but to do that I would need gold and redstone, meaning I had to go mining. Before I went anywhere though, I made a parrying dagger. A parrying dagger was still a dagger, so I could still use it, and also it could block attacks like a shield, which would be really important if an enemy ever spotted me. Then while I was on my way to a cave to go mining, I saw a bounty board in the village. This had a bunch of tasks that I could do in exchange for gold, and one of them was an epic rarity, which I assume was like the best one here. And for that I had to kill 8 zombies and craft 16 signs. I crafted the signs and then I waited for nighttime so I could fight the zombies. And then at nighttime I began assassinating all of the mobs that I saw. It was pretty cool being able to like stealth around and take out mobs from behind and all that, but whenever a mob spotted me, it was a total pain to kill. I did like no damage. By morning I had definitely killed 8 zombies, but the bounty had no progress, so I realized there was probably a conflict with one of the mods that I had, meaning I could never do a bounty, so that was pretty unfortunate. Day 6, I wanted to expand my sugarcane farm before going mining, and for some reason whenever I broke dirt, it would come to life and turn into a slime. Really annoying. Despite having really low HP, they took like no damage, and I'm assuming I had to hit them with a shovel, but I was only allowed to use a dagger, meaning I couldn't do that, and this took most of the day and also most of my dagger's durability, so that was fun. Whenever I was done with that, I made a fresh dagger just to be safe, and then the next day I went mining. In the caves, I spotted a mimic. The stealth mod let me see that it was a mimic before I even approached it, so that kinda defeats the purpose of it disguising, but oh well. I took it out and it gave me a bauble that would boost my movement speed whenever I took damage, which is pretty good. I then mined this mithril ore, which seemed like its main purpose is to make a really good bow, but I can't use a bow, so not really good for me. The grappling hook though was honestly fantastic for these caves. It let me swing behind some zombies so I could assassinate them without them seeing me, when otherwise they definitely would have seen me. So yeah, it was really good for being an assassin. In this mod pack, I had a mod called Whirly's Caves, which makes the caves absolutely incredible. I never had to strip mine or dig straight down or anything, and I found diamonds, redstone, gold, everything, all from a cave that I found from the surface. There also weren't that many mobs down here, however I did have a bit of a close call with these weird endermen that gave me nausea. Luckily I was able to build a little box to hide in so I didn't, die, but that was a little scary. I then killed another mimic and got a bauble that makes me immune to knockback, which is really nice. One not so good thing about these caves is that there is a lot of lava. And lava normally is not that big of a deal, but maybe you try to grappling hook to look all cool and you pull yourself into the lava like an idiot. I would never do that, but all I'm saying is that it is a risk that exists. I fought another mimic, which ended up seeing me before I took it out, which was absolutely terrifying, but I took it out and it gave me a bauble that gave me free fire aspect. I then killed another mimic and I got a bauble that gives me infinite night vision, which was incredible. I really wanted to find an item like this, and to get it so early was perfect. They might have looked a little bit dumb, but I don't even care. I then mined a few more diamonds and then a bunch of this adamantium stuff, and then I dug back to the surface. Day 9, I stored all of my stuff that I got in my top chest, and I had a lot now. I had 14 diamonds, and also the adamantium stuff had armor that was basically equivalent to diamond, meaning I could more or less get a full set of diamond armor now, which was crazy. I began smelting all my ores, and then I immediately made a diamond dagger and a diamond parrying dagger. Then when enough adamantium was smelted, I made a full set of armor, and I was stacked now. I needed one more string to upgrade my grappling hook, so I waited for nighttime to kill a spider. The spider ended up being able to fly, which was kind of crazy, and I don't really know how I one-shot it because it definitely saw me, but I don't even care, I'll take it. The next morning I made a base grappling hook upgrade, then a motor upgrade, then I combined the motor upgrade with a grappling hook and a piece of redstone to get the smart motor grappling hook. This grappling hook would automatically pull me towards it and also pull me around ledges and stuff, meaning it was really easy to use. While I was testing it, I got spotted by a laser creeper, and then I used the grappling hook to go around the mountain and behind the creeper, assassinating it. It gave me an item that could be used to make a laser gun, but I'm not really sure a laser gun fits an assassin, so I'll pass on that. I made an enchantment table, and then I checked my level 1 enchantments, and I was able to give my boots this enchantment called wall running, and after testing it, this was just really cool. I could run on walls and then launch off of them by jumping, which was amazing, but it was a little bit hard to control. Then, to end off day 10, I got sharpness 1 on my diamond dagger because I definitely wanted to deal more damage. Day 11, I used gold and lapis to make these potion rings, and then I made 2 rings of speed and 2 rings of resistance. And while wearing all 4 of these, I now had permanent speed 2 and permanent resistance 2, which was kinda broken. Then I made a paraglider, which would let me glide slowly to the ground and avoid fall damage. Next, I enchanted my parrying dagger with sharpness 1, and I was fully equipped to explore. So, on day 12, I set out to explore, and the first thing I did was attack a looter. And upon hitting this thing, it steals my dagger. Luckily, I had my parrying dagger, so I could outrange this thing and take it out to get my dagger back, but that was a little bit scary. And after that, it was time to adventure. I wanted to find a cool place to live and maybe some dungeons or stuff along the way. But then in a forest, I get spotted by something, and then through a wall, I see something about a jetliner spider or whatever, and then my game crashes. Very cool, love that. And then I log back in, and this jetpack spider thing is attacking me, and then all of a sudden, my computer starts lagging, and breaking, and exploding, and then my game crashes again. So, unfortunately, I had to remove the mod that adds the laser creepers, and the robot dinosaurs, and all of that, because it just did not really work with the stealth mod. Later that day, I found a dungeon, and with my speed and my night vision, I was able to easily run around the entire place, assassinating everything. There didn't seem to be any loot, but I kept going, and then finally, a few floors down, there was a chest with a stone sword in it, and that's it. At this point, I assumed the dungeon was a waste of time, but then I got to the bottom floor. Eventually down there, I found a chest, and upon looting it, it was stacked. This is better than End City loot. I got a Mending Unbreaking 3 diamond leggings, Protection 3 wall running, Depth Strider 3 diamond boots, and a diamond helmet. This was crazy. I also got blaze powder, dragon breath, end crystals, a lot of good stuff. And my armor had gotten a massive upgrade. Day 13, I kept traveling and I came across some villages and stuff, got some diamonds from a random structure here and there, and then I found this red desert village, and inside of it I got a bunch of iron and a mega loot crate. I opened it and it gave me a chest plate that was overall better than my current one, so I put it on. Day 14, I spotted this weird tower with these illager banners, and apparently it had zombies everywhere. I took out the 2 front guards, but then other zombies came to help them out, and I'm not really about fighting head on, so I ran off. This one zombie with a literal gun was following me all the way to a nearby village, but I used a tree to lose him by sneaking around it, and then I took him out. These stealth mechanics were incredibly satisfying, especially when the mobs were a little bit dumb. I then tried scaling the tower with my grappling hook, but of course I hit a window and then one of the zombies in there uses some sort of crazy lightning magic, and then I fall down and land next to a giant ender golem, and this thing tries to kill me. This was not going well. I ended up getting chased by that ender golem for a hot minute, and then I used some trees to get some stealth attacks off, but then for some reason it started spinning super fast without following me, meaning if I came out of hiding it would see me for sure. I decided to find a new spot to ambush it, so I ran off and ducked into this little water hole in the ground, and it lost me, so I was able to jump up and get off 2 stealth attacks, taking it out. After that, you cannot tell me these stealth mechanics are not sick. That felt so cool, bro. The ender golem dropped a horn that I could use for a sword, but I can't use swords, so that was just going to be a trophy. I then grappled to the top of the tower and I hung off the ledge, and then I was able to take out all the archers mostly stealthily. On top of that tower, I broke a force field nexus, which meant I could now break blocks in the tower, which became very convenient. I then looted the chests and got some iron and gold, but then 2 guards came up there and spotted me. Luckily, they were pretty dumb, so just by running around them, I could lose them and then stab them in the back and take them all out. Then I started going down the tower, and I get jumped by this magic zombie using lightning. I took it out, and then I looked further down and saw this mob called the Butcher. I could only assume that this was the dungeon's boss, meaning if I took that guy out, the dungeon was mine. And then, because I didn't want the nighttime making it any harder, I just slept on the roof and moved on to the next day. And then the next morning, because I was able to actually break blocks in the tower, I dug some holes in the ceiling above the Butcher's floor. When I spotted it, I jumped down, I assassinated the Butcher, and I used my grappling hook to go back to the previous floor. I then kept luring the other zombies into vulnerable spots, and then I used my dagger to stab them in the back, clearing out the rest of the tower. Now, the loot here wasn't anything crazy, but because I had fought so hard for this tower, I figured that, you know what, this would be my base. However, it definitely needed some renovations. So I spent a few days renovating the fortress. I didn't do anything super crazy, I just sort of patched in the holes in the ceiling and the floors, and also replaced the bottom floor because it was pretty ugly. I also fixed up the little tunnel, and then I replaced the turret tower with a waystone so that I could teleport to wherever I wanted. And I set up an enchanting area on the second floor with an anvil and a brewing stand as well. The top floor I didn't have very much use for, so it was pretty empty. And on day 20, I wanted to replace all the ugly illager banners with my own very cool, very unique banners, so I set out to get the materials. I needed a lot of wool, some dyes, and a vine. At the end of day 20, I found some vines, but no wool yet. Day 21, I found some sheep in a village, and then I sheared them. Then I also found this really cool rock with emerald ores on the surface, and if I could find more of those, I could get the Return Enchanted book from before, and that would be lit. Then I found a pirate ship with an entire sail made of wool, which was perfect. I glided over to the sail, mined a ton of wool, and then I cleared the entire boat of all the spawners. There was no actual loot in the boat, just a lot of spawners, but I got my wool, which was way more than enough for me. The last thing that I needed was ink sacs, and there was not a single squid in sight. Then on the morning of day 22, I found some squids, I got my ink sacs, and then I used the waystone in a nearby village to teleport home. Also, I am not a fan of waystones taking my experience to use, because it made it way too hard to enchant. Then I made a banner and I applied all my dyes and stuff to it to make it very cool, just like me. I copied it to a bunch of other banners, and then I got to replacing all the ugly old illager ones. I also almost killed myself with a grappling hook in the process, so that was fun. I needed a bit more white dye to finish off the banners, so that night I hunted skeletons for bones. And I also somehow got the Monster Hunter achievement, even though I had definitely killed monsters before. I'm assuming there was some sort of weird mod issue similar to the bounty problem before, so that was fun. After getting enough bones, I slept off the night, and then the next day I looted a desert temple that I found, and of course it had way more bones than I could ever need, so the entire night was basically a waste. I also got some emeralds and then these buried treasure maps, and I followed the treasure maps to the loot, and the loot was just trash. Just some bones and some random stuff. And then the second map didn't even have a treasure spot on it. Like, why? And after that, I went home and I finished setting up all the banners. Morning of day 24, my castle had all the banners and it was officially mine. During that quest for banners, I found 3 mega loot boxes, so I opened them and I got a mediocre helmet, some mediocre boots, and a pickaxe called the Godzilla. Quite the name, I must say. It had a very low durability, but it was fast and my diamond one was almost broken, so I would use it for now. Now that I had a home, I wanted to find a better food source and I also wanted to enchant. I saw that I could make different kinds of soup with stock. One of them was vegetable soup, which seemed pretty easy, but it used mushrooms, which I didn't have much of, so I made what I could, but not very much. But I then saw that I could make meaty stew, which was basically just wheat, raw meat, and stock, which was incredibly easy. Day 25, my goal was to get more materials for food, so I went and harvested a farm from a nearby village. And I needed raw meat for the stew, so I had to take off the fire aspect bauble, and then I hunted mobs. While hunting, I saw this weird bug thing, and then a scarecrow. Not really sure what they were for, but they didn't drop anything interesting, so nothing crazy there. The morning of day 26, I found another desert temple. The loot was pretty trash, but more golden apples is always nice. I teleported home with a waystone, and then after all that hunting and farming, I now had over a stack of meaty stew, which would hopefully last me for a while. I now wanted to get something that I had wanted since the very beginning. I teleported back to my first village, and then I traded a librarian for a return to enchanted book. I then harvested all the farms in the village, and then I went home to put the book on my dagger, only to learn that it didn't work. I get that it's not meant to be like a throwing weapon specifically, but come on, I can literally throw it. All that time and all those emeralds wasted, or so I thought. I looked and saw that there was a throwing knife available in the mod, so I crafted that and I literally got an achievement called an Assassin's Need, which is just, it's perfect, bro, it's perfect. So I enchanted it with Return to, and now I had a really cool throwing knife to use. I honestly probably should have enchanted it before adding the book to it, but oh well, I'll worry about that later. I finished day 26 by setting up a sugarcane farm outside so I could trade for more emeralds later on. And I'm gonna let you know right now, I did not harvest this farm a single time, so I wasted some time making it, I guess. I now had food, I had a ranged weapon, and I had a home. I was feeling pretty good. I did want more experience though. I wanted to enchant my gear so I could survive a bit easier, so I went to take on a nearby dungeon that I had seen earlier. This dungeon was full of mummies with gold armor. I used my new throwing knife on the first two and it took a few hits, but I was able to safely outrange them and take them out. I then used a tree to hide from the next two guards and then I stabbed them in the back, taking them out as well. I cleared the first floor of mummies and spiders and then I broke the spawners and the chest had trash in it, so I moved on. I then cleared the rest of the upper building by assassinating all the guards on the wall, and then I realized that the actual dungeon was under the building. I was able to make creative use of the staircases to hide from enemies and then stab them in the back whenever they weren't looking, which was really fun. I was able to take out most of the enemies this way. And the grappling hook also came in handy, allowing me to, grapple around wherever I wanted pretty safely. I looted a chest with some food, and then I saw below me that there were enemies with a diamond armor. Yeah, I had to play the next few floors very carefully. The next floor down, I looted some more food from a chest, and then I very coolly wall ran and assassinated 2 more enemies, making actual use of the wall run, which I am surprised of because it was very hard to control and very awkward, but it was cool. The next and final floor, all the diamond armor enemies were grouped up, and then I saw the boss Zeraxis. And then the absolute wackest thing happened. I was moving around on the upper floor looking for an opportunity to, take out some of the enemies, and then I died of fall damage while holding my glider. That doesn't even make sense. The glider prevents that. That's not how that works. I think we can all agree that doesn't really count as a death. Yeah? Y'all should leave a comment right now saying, yeah, you didn't die on day 27. Just leave the comment right now, please. Thank you. Yeah. I then used the good old-fashioned cheating technique to get all my stuff back, and we're just gonna call that a fluke. However, while I got my stuff back, I did lose, like, all of my experience doing that, which was the entire reason that I was in the dungeon in the first place, so that's great. But back to the matter at hand, dealing with the diamond mummies. I killed this weird mushroom zombie thing, but that was not what I needed. I was taking out guards at the top of the stairs, and then the entire boss comes up there. I was not prepared for that. I backed up and began throwing my knives at him to chip away his HP, and after realizing that was going to take forever, I used the pillars in the room to hide and began getting stealth attacks off on him and the guard that was following him. After getting backed into a corner, I just ran straight past the boss and the guard, and I was able to quickly get off a few backstabs, killing the guard. With them down, I just waited for the boss to turn around, and I ran in, hit him with a few backstabs, taking out Xeraxis. It dropped these regenerating slime balls, which I had no idea how to use, so they would just be a trophy. I took out the rest of the guards, and then I looted the chests, and I got some gold, emeralds, diamonds, and a glove that I think was a weapon, so I couldn't use it. I also got a really good bow, which I also couldn't use, and then I headed home and stored all the stuff. Now, clearly I did not gain experience from that dungeon, so I had to find a new way to get some. I spent the entirety of day 29 traveling and exploring, trying to find some sort of dungeon or boss that gives a bunch of experience. Day 30, I found this weird broken-looking desert temple thing. There were spider spawners in there, and in total I got a bad dagger, this weird crown thing, a weird heart, and I had no use for any of it, at least not right now. I found another one of those later on, and it basically had the same stuff, bones, gold, some other modded stuff, nothing crazy. In a village, I found a rare mega loot crate, which gave me these dragon boots that were actually really good, but my enchanted ones were better for now, so I didn't use them. The next day, I found a massive wooden pirate ship with a pirate captain boss bar. I tried going up top with a grapple, but the mobs were stacked in diamond armor, so I snuck in through the back instead. I took out all the leather armored pirates on the bottom, and then I made my way up. I chased one of the diamond pirates out of its room, and then I hid in it, and there were so many pirates in the next room that I was a little bit terrified to go in there. I waited until one of the other pirates came in, and I took him out. I start swinging into the massive horde of pirates, and then one dude goes in with the spin to win tactic and starts bodying me, so I retreat into the previous room. After a lot of back and forth, I eventually managed to take out all the pirates on that floor. The diamond spin to win guys were super annoying, but eventually I learned that they don't change direction once they start spinning, so I was able to easily avoid them and take them out. I kept luring the pirates on the top deck down the stairs and taking them out, which took a while, and then the last dude on the top deck has a gun. I managed to sneak away into a different room, and he came to look for me, but I was hiding behind the doorway, and then I took him out, finishing off the last pirate. There was still a captain though, and because he was a boss, I was a little terrified to fight him. And I'll tell you right now that I definitely was correct to be terrified to fight him, just not for the reason you might think. I saw his position in the room through a wall, so I snuck around using a ladder and went behind him, and I swung, I missed, and my game crashed. But then, when I logged back in, I got off a massive backstab, and then I hid up top so he would lose me, and then he came out of the room, I went to stab him again, and my game crashed again! Yeah, I could not beat this boss. There was some sort of issue with his parrot throwing a potion. I don't really know, but its game crashing powers were a little too strong for me. As soon as I logged back in, I got out of there. This was not worth it at all. And I'll have y'all know right now that I crashed 4 times just trying to swim away from the boat. I don't know what was wrong with that, but I was never fighting a pirate captain again. I refuse. The next day, I found this village with a dungeon entrance, and I went down, and in that dungeon, I saw this awful skeleton spine thing, and when I backed away, it digs under the ground and comes after me. Nah, I'm not about that. Luckily, I was able to kill it while I was underground, but that thing was gross. I'm not a fan. I don't want to see them ever again. That's gross, bro. I just sort of gave up on finding the ladders in this dungeon and began digging through it because the bottom floor was the only one really worth going to. I eventually found the bottom loot room and I got some end crystals, a mending diamond axe, a silk touch diamond pickaxe, and a bunch of other random good stuff. The next morning I had to waste 3 levels on teleporting home, which is so lame. And after sorting my stuff, you know what I did? I changed the config so it would not use EXP anymore. I wanted to be able to enchant something during this 100 days, at some point. I had gotten mushrooms from that dungeon, so I was able to make an item called the Golden Mushroom. This would spawn a boss, so I went into a nearby plains biome and placed it down. Lightning struck and the boss spawned and it just sat there. He was facing the wrong way and did not see me, so he could not attack me. I hit him with a really good backstab and then he came at me and then I hit him again and his health got low enough that he tried to retreat, so I just chased him down, hit him again, taking him out. Really easy boss, but unfortunately it did not give me a lot of experience like I was hoping for it to. Just a lot of mushrooms and a yellow heart. And on the way home I killed a boar and I got this boar head, so I put that on my wall as a nice little trophy. The next day I upgraded my backpack to diamond. I had way more storage now. Now that waystones were free, I wanted to go find more dungeons for more experience so I could actually enchant some stuff. And I found something way more valuable than any enchantment. While exploring, I killed a boar and it dropped an everlasting raw pork chop. This was an insanely rare drop. I have no idea how rare it is, but it's like a 1% drop from pigs and I guess boars as well. And it was just infinite food. I made a furnace, I cooked it, and now I had an infinite cooked pork chop, meaning I never had to worry about food again. Seriously, this happens in like every single video. I have no idea why, but I don't care. It's lit. Then I found this giant stone structure and the boss bar was question marks. That had me very curious, so I wanted to take it on. It was full of zombies, and when I approached, a massive horde came out. I led them all away and I took them out. There were tons of spawners and stuff in this dungeon along with the other armored zombies. Most of the loot was just food, which I would never need again, so not really useful. Most of the diamond armored zombies ended up falling down to the bottom, which was fantastic because now I don't have to fight them. After clearing a room full of spiders, I look up and see that the boss was a lich. And the second that I peek my head up, lightning. The 2 zombies that came after me were in some sort of crazy armor and they had fire magic as well, and this place was no joke. One of those crazy looking zombies ended up falling down the tower, and after taking out the one next to the lich, I learned that the lich was invincible. I assumed this meant that I had to kill the other armored zombie, so I went to find it and I took it out. I went up there and I looked at the lich and the barrier was still up. I assumed that this had to do with the lantern that it was sitting on. I ran up and I broke the lantern, which exploded, and I got off a massive backstab on the lich, dealing a ton of damage. I kept ducking around this pillar, getting off more and more backstabs on the lich, and then it threw out these red symbols and summoned zombies. These zombies did a lot of damage, and every time I took them out, it would just spawn even more of them, so I just beelined for the lich instead. I chased it down and took out the lich, and then all of the zombies disappeared. The dungeon was defeated. The chest had an Unbreaking 3 Mending Diamond chestplate, which was great because my armor was almost destroyed. It also dropped a staff, and I used it, and it summons an entire zombie. It had an inventory for armor and everything, like it was a whole-on permanent tamed creature, but it didn't really fit the whole assassin thing, so I would just instead keep the staff as a trophy. Then, the next day, day 37, I actually enchanted some stuff! Let's go! I enchanted a throwing knife, getting a propulsion 3, razor's edge 4, unbreaking 3, and return 3. Propulsion makes the knife fly faster and further, and razor's edge makes it deal more damage, so this was a fantastic ranged weapon. I then enchanted a normal diamond dagger, and I got sharpness 4 and knockback 2. My damage was a lot better now, but I would still need more experience for my armor. After enchanting, I made an obsidian skull because I had conveniently gotten the materials that I needed from dungeons, so now I basically had fire resistance. Day 38, I wanted to find more mimics for artifacts, so I went underground. And my new dagger was crazy. I was able to one-shot Enderman, which I could not even come close to doing before. And I also found a random chest in the caves that surprisingly was not a mimic, and it gave me some recall potions and stuff like that. Another chest had 2 loot crates, one of which gave me trash boots, and the other one gave me a shovel, which wasn't even that good of a shovel, but I'll take it. After a bit, I finally found a mimic and it gave me a cloud in a bottle which let me double jump. This gave me incredible mobility and would help a lot with getting away from mobs that spot me. The next mimic that I killed gave me a balloon that would increase my jump height, but it had to replace the cobalt shield and I much preferred being immune to knockback, so I wouldn't use the balloon. I found some more cases in a chest, and one of them gave me a trash axe, and the other one gave me this godlike helmet that gave me an extra heart. Fantastic armor. And the next mimic that I killed gave me an obsidian skull. It's different, and I'm pretty sure worse than the one that I already had, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but oh well. I headed back home on day 39. I had only really gotten Cloud in a bottle, but in my opinion, it was worth it. I had also gotten enough experience to enchant my new dragon helmet, and I got protection 4. And with my new Cloud in a bottle, my Baubles UI was kind of getting in the way of my hotbar, so I took up this random necklace that I got earlier because it wasn't that great, and I also forgot to write it down, so I don't even know where I got it, but yeah, it wasn't that great. Day 40, I wanted to go to the Nether. I grabbed a bunch of obsidian from a nearby pillar, and then I built a big portal on my roof. And when I lit it, it said that it would slowly spread the Nether into the overworld and could be stopped by placing down 4 block coals. And as cool as that kind of sounded, I don't really want that happening in my house. So I went and got me my 4 block coals and I stopped the spread because I was not dealing with that. But I was a little bit curious, so I built another portal a bit away from my house and I waited around to see what it did. By the end of day 40, it had started creating netherrack below the portal, but it seemed like it only affected dirt blocks, like not even grass blocks, so not that big of a deal. Day 41, I went to the nether. I spawned into a cave and then I started mining quartz, and this little like nether bug thing comes out of the quartz to attack me. I then mined more nether quartz and then I realized that I had silk touch, so I couldn't even gain experience, but I could at least grab the ores for later. I mined around until I found an opening, and immediately I see a mutant zombie pigman. I had no idea what it could do, and honestly, I really didn't want to find out, so I didn't even try to fight it. I found this onyx ore, which seemed like it was actually better than diamond, which was amazing. There were also these giant salamanders with turrets on their back, and they gave me this molten meat when I killed them, which for some reason this meat could be used to make armor, which is a little bit weird. I kept running around mining all the onyx ore that I could find, and I also wanted to find a fortress for nether wart and wither skeletons. I ended up killing one of those nether bugs from earlier, and the assassin's vision let me see a wither skeleton through a wall, and sure enough, it led me straight to a nether fortress. I killed the nearby skeletons, and then I made my way over to the fortress. I dug into a blaze spawner and took out all the weird blazes, and then I began exploring the fortress. And then I killed a magma cube and my game crashed! You see, I wrote in my notes that I have no idea what causes this, but I learned while in this fortress that whenever a slime type mob spots me, including magma cubes, my game would just crash for some reason. So yeah, they were definitely the most dangerous mob in the game, no doubt in my mind. I killed a few wither skeletons and I got my first skull pretty easily. I would need 2 more for the wither, but the wither wasn't really my goal right now. My goal was actually wither bones. However, these skeletons were not dropping wither bones very often. I spent a few days trying to get these, and I only ended up getting 4, so I figured that I would come back later on whenever I had looting. Day 44, I mined all the nether quartz, and then I reset enchantments until I saw Fortune 3 on a pickaxe, and then I enchanted a brand new one. I tested it on the onyx ore to see if it could be fortuned, and it absolutely could. So I mined all of that, and I got 61 onyx. And then I spent a bit enchanting. I got Depth Strider 3, wall running, and fire protection boots, which was not the best, but they'll work. I also got protection 4 on my leggings, but then I ran out of ore for more experience, so I couldn't do anything else. I wanted more experience, and I also wanted more diamonds, so I went mining on day 45. While mining, I killed a mimic that gave me a bauble that increases my attack speed, which was fantastic for fights wherever I get spotted. At this point, I didn't even care that I covered my hotbar because it was just way too lit. While mining, I also came to the realization that I had been holding torches in my offhand this whole time, despite having night vision, which made literally no sense, so I'm sure I got a couple comments about that one, huh? Probably? Yeah, probably. In a chest underground, I found an Ancient Tome for sharpness, meaning potentially I could get sharpness 6 eventually. I mined a bunch more diamonds until the end of day 46, and then I went back home. I ended up with 50 diamonds and a bunch of other stuff. I enchanted my Onyx helmet with protection 4, and then I realized that it was actually worse than my current helmet, so that was a waste of experience. I then used a bit more experience to reset the enchantment table a few more times until I saw enchantments that I would want in the future. Next, I used the diamonds that I mined along with some emeralds to make relic apples, and then I made canisters. I used those along with the wither bones and then these red heart items that mobs dropped to make red heart canisters. I then made a heart amulet, I put the canisters in it, and then I put it in my bauble slot. Now I had 4 extra hearts, but I really wanted more wither bones to get more. I wanted to get looting first though, so I went to find more dungeons to get experience. Then, on day 48, I found a massive volcano. It was completely covered in ores and there was lava flowing down everywhere, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get some ores. And then I tried breaking some blocks only to learn that I couldn't break stuff, meaning that this volcano was a dungeon. Inside this volcano, there had to be either a boss or some sort of like force field block preventing me from mining, so this was about to be very fun. Luckily, I could still build, so I start building up, and then inside the volcano, I see that there are gremlins. And when I got higher up, I saw a boss bar for temporary boss. Yeah, that's a very intimidating boss name. I was a little bit concerned that I wouldn't be able to beat it, but you know, I have some confidence. I got to the top of the volcano, and then I looked down and like, whoa. The interior was massive and there was a ton of lava everywhere. I started making my way down, and then I saw the gremlins. The gremlins at the top were in leather armor, meaning that I was definitely meant to start from the top and work my way down. So I glided the rest of the way down, and then I got to work. The knockback enchantment on my dagger let me knock all the gremlins into the lava, which would have made the dungeon super easy, but I didn't gain any EXP that way, so I didn't really want to do that, so I ended up just killing them normally instead. Also, it turns out that there was an entire other entryway that I was supposed to use for this dungeon, but I never saw that, so I just sorta did it my own way. I worked my way all the way down the spiral, killing gremlins in leather, gold, chainmail, iron, and then finally, diamond armor. I also got a Frostwalker book out of a chest, which is pretty cool. Get it? Cool? Because it's a Frostwalker enchantment? Yeah, anyways. Also, I know what I said about the experience, but I had no shame knocking in the iron and diamond gremlins into the lava because they were a little bit too tanky, and it was impossible to backstab every single one of them. After clearing all the gremlins, I made my way down to the room that I assumed the boss was in, only to find even more gremlins. But I made my way through, looting chests that had some decent loot, but nothing better than I already had. I eventually found Temporary Boss, which ended up just being a really beefy gremlin in diamond armor that summoned skeletons, so not super interesting. I was able to pin the boss in a corner and absolutely destroy it, and it dropped nothing! Not even the skeleton summoning staff, just nothing. But regardless, that was the dungeon defeated. The loot in the chest was pretty good though. I got a bunch of diamonds, ender pearls, gold blocks, stuff like that. I could also now mine all of the ores in the volcano, but honestly, I didn't really need to, so I just went home. Day 51, I decided that this long shot grappling hook that I got from the dungeon was way better than my current one, so I would use that from now on. With the experience that I got, I enchanted a new dagger with sharpness 4, and then I got a protection 3 chestplate and protection 4 depth strider 3 boots. I then combined my daggers to get sharpness 5, and then I very stupidly combined my boots in the wrong way, and I deleted the protection 4, so that was cool. I also checked the Ancient Tome, and apparently in this version of Minecraft, it has to be combined with a sharpness 5 book to get sharpness 6, and it would cost 70 levels, which is definitely not worth it. So yeah, now I had no sharpness 6, I had 5 levels, and I had no looting. So I decided that for now I would just give up on the heart canisters, and instead I made invisibility potions. I figured that if I don't have extra health for a head-on fight, maybe I would want to be more stealthy, and invis potions would definitely be good for stealth. Now, I wrote in my notes that unfortunately I only had enough spider eyes for 6 potions, but I'm gonna let you know right now that I only ever used 1 potion, so it really wasn't that unfortunate. Because I'm stupid and forgot about them. Alright, day 52, I wanted to fight a boss. I had a few bosses in the mod pack, and one of them that I wanted to fight spawned in the ocean, so I went to search for it. I sailed for a long time, like literally 2 days. This thing was very rare. But then on day 54, I finally saw the island. When I got closer, the Cyclops boss bar appeared. I drank an invisibility potion and then I went down into the cave. I got down to the bottom and there was the Cyclops with 1,000 health. For reference, the Wither only has like 300 health, so that was a little concerning. I readied my recall potions just in case, and then I went in for a backstab. I got off a ton of damage, and then he immediately slams down his club. I was able to easily dodge all of his attacks, and I also was able to duck out of his line of sight to get off a massive backstab. Then, eventually, he fired a laser beam at me, but fortunately, it was pretty slow, so I could run around him and get off another backstab. At one point, I got hit by his club and launched into the ceiling, but luckily my armor was so good at this point that I didn't take that much damage. I kept avoiding attacks and getting off backstabs, and once below a third of its HP, the Cyclops tried to retreat to regenerate. After realizing that wouldn't work, he turned around, he slammed his club, and then he shot his laser eye. I just kept attacking with my dagger over and over, and eventually I defeated the Cyclops. I got a yellow heart and a Cyclops eye as a trophy. Very cool boss, and if I had fought it any earlier, I would have been in trouble. I went home and I put up the eye next to the staff from before. Then, day 55, I wanted to fight the Ender Dragon. It might be a little early to be doing that, but I really wanted to get all that easy experience to get looting and other enchantments. I made Eyes of Ender and then I followed them. There was an Ender Golem directly above the stronghold, which I don't know if that's supposed to be there, but that was pretty fitting. I took it out and I dug down until I reached the stronghold. I explored for a bit and then I got an Efficiency 3 book and some other random stuff. This stronghold was completely destroyed by caves, so navigating it was kind of a pain. Eventually though, I found the portal room and I jumped into the end. I spawned about a mile away from the island, but luckily I brought cobblestone so I could build over. The dragon hit me as soon as I got to the island, making me think I was going to die, but I forgot that I had the Cobalt Shield, making me immune to knockback, so I was actually safe. There were all kinds of weird Endermen here, but luckily there were none of the Ender Golems that would attack me even if I didn't look at them. I immediately got to work on the towers, and in that process I did end up losing some throwing knives in the void, so I had to be a bit careful about that. I grappled up to one of the towers and began throwing knives at all the other ones that I could reach, and I'ma be honest, I was kind of a god at aiming throwing knives, pretty skilled, not gonna lie. Whenever I destroyed all the towers, the dragon was just sorta freaking out, like a lot. I'm assuming that was some sort of glitch with the stealth mod or something, I don't really know, but I was still able to get off a bunch of damage whenever it perched, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Also, I learned that I apparently could take knockback as the dragon knocked me all the way into one of the pillars, so the Cobalt Shield is not that great, I guess. With the dragon spinning and doing so many other weird things when near the ground, it was a little hard to get close, but after a lot of waiting, I managed to get off a ton of hits, defeating the Ender Dragon. I then collected all of the experience and the dragon egg. I then went and looted an end city, and I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't really use any of the loot. I then spent the entire next day gliding around the end looking for an end gateway, and then I was finally able to go home. I don't know if there's some sort of trick to finding the end gateways, but it always takes me like forever. Day 58, it was time to use all the experience that I now had. I got an insane Onyx pickaxe. I also got better boots that I was going to hopefully properly combine this time, and then I got looting 3 on a dagger. It was time. I got a crazy enchanted book with Unbreaking 3 and Feather Falling 4, which was definitely going on my boots. I then enchanted another dagger with Poisonous 3, which poisons enemies, which seems pretty fitting for an assassin. I also got another Razor's Edge throwing knife, meaning I could now get Razor's Edge 5. Next, I got a Looting 3, a Sharpness 4 parrying dagger. Not that I ever really used the parrying dagger, but I'm sure that it would be useful at some point. Then I got a throwing knife with Razor's Edge 4 and Lucky Throw, which was the same as looting, which is really good. Overall, the enchanting turned out very well. I used the rest of my experience on books, and then I combined what I could for now, which ended up just being adding looting to my new dagger and Unbreaking and Feather Falling to my new boots. It also turns out that I cannot combine enchantments on my throwing knife because I threw some of the ammo into the void, meaning I had to restore the ammo, which costs 28 levels, meaning I was not doing that. I then used the last of my levels to upgrade my chestplate to protection 4. I now had my looting 3, so I wanted to go back to the nether to get those wither bones and wither skulls. As soon as I go to the fortress, I killed a wither skeleton and got 6 wither bones immediately. It was definitely worth getting looting. I was pretty easily able to get all the bones that I needed and a second wither skull, but the third wither skull took a while. I found so many wither skeletons too, but none of them were dropping a skull. Then in this massive horde of mobs, I ended up getting my third skull, but I don't really know which skeleton dropped it, but I don't care, I got it. With my 3 skulls, I built a portal and I went back home. The next day I made more relic apples and then I used them to make a bunch of red heart canisters. I now had a lot of health, but I could still get more. I crafted 2 god apples and then I combined them with the red heart canisters and these yellow hearts that I got from bosses, and I got 2 yellow heart canisters. I now had even more health, but to get more I would need a lot of gold. And more health was exactly what I wanted, so on the next day I went to go mining. And as soon as I got underground, I killed a mimic that gave me a bauble that made me like really tiny. I was like a block tall, and it was honestly really cool, but I would much rather be normal height. After mining all of that day, I realized that it was not that easy to find a lot of gold. So instead, the next day I made a nature's compass and then I tracked a mesa biome. It was like 7,000 blocks away, meaning it was time to travel. And yeah, for that whole day, I just traveled and traveled and traveled until eventually I reached the mesa biome on day 63. In the mesa, I found a cave and began mining a ton of gold. It was very worth the long trip. There was gold everywhere. I also got an entire god apple and a magic mirror out of a chest. So now I had infinite recall potions and a free god apple. I also got a bauble that negates all fall damage, which is really good because now I can't randomly die to my glider, which is lit. Also, my bauble UI was kind of covering most of my hotbar, so I changed my UI scale and it looked a lot nicer. A bit later, I got another bauble that increases my melee damage. These caves were amazing to me. I mined a ton more gold and then I headed home. The next day, I set up a ton of furnaces and began smelting all the gold. I then went and gathered a bunch of mushrooms so I could rematch the mushroom boss to get more yellow hearts. Then I got back home and I made 8 golden mushrooms. Day 65, I killed 8 mushroom bosses and got all of my yellow hearts and a lot of mushroom blocks. By then, all of the gold was smelted, so I made all of my yellow heart canisters, and now I had over 3 rows of hearts, which should be more than enough for like ever. I also had enough EXP to add the poisonous enchantment to my daggers, so it was even stronger now. Then on day 66, I wanted to fight more bosses. There were a few more that I hadn't even seen yet, meaning it was time to explore! Let's go! I explored for the entire day, and I was not having good luck with spawns, at all. It was the middle of the next day when I finally found one on top of an obsidian spire. This was an Ender Titan, and I'm not really sure if it counts as a boss, but it has a ton of HP, and I'm pretty sure it's really strong, so I counted it. I saw the direction that it was facing, so I grappled up the tower on the other side, and I hit it super hard with my dagger. I hit it 2 more times, and I knocked it off the tower, and then it tried to flee, so I chased it down and took it out. I get that assassins aren't meant to have opponents fight back very much, but I was still kinda hoping for a bit more of a challenge, but Ender Titan defeated. Now I had another boss to hunt, so I got back to searching. And it wasn't quite what I was looking for, but on the next day I found a boss bar for the Exterminator prototype, which was a really cool name, so I wanted to see what it was. It came from this dungeon in the desert that was filled with armored illagers. Luckily, most of them were facing the perfect direction to assassinate them, so I got through most of the dungeon pretty easily. I made my way through, tearing through all the pillagers, and they also had zombie spawners for some reason, which was really weird because zombies literally attack illagers, so that was weird. There was one illager called the Webmaster, which looked really cool and had a bunch of spider minions, but he died really easily. Like, if that guy was a boss, that would have been amazing. Then I got to the end with the Exterminator prototype. I stabbed it in the back and then I saw that this thing was a crazy iron golem. It was completely invincible from the front, which works out fantastically for me. So I stab it again in the back, and then the backpack becomes supercharged and begins electrocuting me, so I back off. Once the electricity stopped, I go in for another hit, and it begins firing a laser, but luckily I interrupted it, and it went back to being invincible and shocking me again. I get another hit off, which ended up bringing it down to 1 HP because of the poison enchantment, and then once the invincibility wore off, I get off one more hit, taking out the Exterminator prototype. It gave me a yellow heart, and that was it. No other drops for that super cool boss. Very lame, but regardless, it was defeated. It also shredded my armor's durability because of that lightning, which was not cool at all. That night, I killed these mobs called Forsaken, which ended up dropping these weird memory items, which ended up being very important later on. Day 69, I got back to hunting for the next boss. It spawned from a structure in forest biomes, so I needed to not be in a desert. I spent the entire day sailing towards a forest and arrived early on day 70. And I searched through this incredibly small forest and found absolutely nothing! I'm not sure how rare the structure I needed to find was, but when I was testing the mod pack, I found it super easily, so I expected to find it easily again. And that's not what happened. In fact, I just kept traveling through forests and forests and forests and found nothing. And I had to resist the urge to fight every single dungeon that I saw because I really wanted to fight them, but I definitely wanted to fight the boss first. And it took way too long to find this boss. I did not find this boss totem until day 77. That is so many days wasted on looking for a single boss, but you know what? Oh well, I finally found it. This totem, when broken, would summon a boss, so I broke it and the Lesion boss fight began. It began the fight by summoning an army of wolves, which I started taking out. The Lesion was stuck in a tree, which let me get off a ton of free damage, but then it disappeared into a swarm of bats and teleported away. The Lesion kept doing this over and over and over, summoning wolves and then bats and then teleporting, all while having me constantly poisoned, but it really wasn't doing much beyond that, and I had plenty of health, so the poison didn't really do much, so it wasn't that hard of a fight. And it didn't take long until I was able to run in and defeat the Lesion. I cleared the rest of the wolves and then I checked out the drops. It dropped a wild root staff, which could be used to spawn plants under mobs, killing them, which was really cool but really not fitting for an assassin, so I went home and put it on display as a trophy. And then, because it definitely needed it, I repaired all of my Onyx armor. Now, I had a few goals before the end of this 100 days. And the first was to get Assassin's Armor. I had a mod that adds armor from Assassin's Creed, and to find these armor sets, I had to go into this no man's land biome and look for tombs underground. There were multiple armor sets, and each tomb had a completely random one, so hopefully I could find the best looking set. The no man's land that I found was small and also partially taken over by a defiled lands biome, which was spreading and corrupting the entire thing. Underground, there were these howler mobs, which weren't that big of a threat, and there was also corruption under the ground. I mined for a bit and looked through all the caves in the biome, but I decided that it was way too small to be able to find anything, so I went to find a larger biome. I found a new no man's land on day 79, and it was way bigger. I immediately went underground to try and find these tombs. These things could generate anywhere underground in this biome, so my method was to search inside caves, and then if I found nothing, I would go as low as possible and then dig straight up, hoping to find one. It might not be the best way to go about it, but I had no idea what else to do. I searched a mine shaft, a massive ravine, I strip mined a ton, and I found nothing. It literally got to the point that I started vein mining massive chunks of stone hoping to find something, but no luck. After 5 straight days of mining, I was running out of time and I was definitely running out of patience. I wanted to at least get one set of armor within the 100 days, and I also had more that I wanted to do as well, so I decided to go with my last resort. Day 85, I went home, I grabbed some leaves, and then I started traveling back to that no man's land. And then day 86, I was back underground in the no man's land. And my last resort might not seem quote-unquote legit to some people, but using the leaves and a boat, I created what we're gonna call a very cool assassin's site, okay? and it lets me see through walls, pretty much is the gist of it. I was able to look around and eventually I saw what I thought might be a tomb. I dug towards it, and then when I got closer, I realized that it was actually just a dungeon, and it was a pretty lame one at that, so kinda unfortunate. Then a bit later, I saw something else that I thought might be a tomb, so I dug towards that, and when I got there, it was, in fact, a tomb. I mined the tomb block, and it gave me a full set of Assassin's Armor. It was trash stat-wise, so I just used it as my cosmetic armor, but it looked sick. Also, I don't know anything about Assassin's Creed, but I assume the character the armor is based on is pretty cool. Day 87, I enchanted the Assassin Armor just to add that extra cool factor, and now I looked like a real assassin. Now, I had a few final goals to complete and like 13 days to do them, so I had to get to work. During my hunt for the Lesion before, I found this dungeon and it had 2 boss bars, and that had me kinda curious. This dungeon was full of these mobs called specters, and there were way too many for me to try and be stealthy. So I just attacked them all head on and let my poison enchantment do most of the damage. It took forever of constantly fighting, but eventually I took out all of the specters on the surface. Then in the building I found a staircase and I went down. These specters underground were much easier to backstab and take out stealthily, so I could take them out way faster. The next floor down, I saw a Shelob suffocating in a wall, so I cut through the guards that were coming down the hallway and moved on as fast as I could. I hit a lever and then down a hallway I pressed a button and then I found a chest with a ton of loot. But when I opened it, it dropped a bunch of sand on me trying to kill me, but luckily I avoided it. The loot was really good, but at this stage there was nothing that I really needed. I then saw an opening in the previous room that led to Temporary Boss. Once again, quite the boss name, I must say. I hit him for a ton of damage right in the back, and then I hit him repeatedly over and over with my dagger. He summoned skeletons, which died pretty easily, and I kept knocking the boss back over and over until eventually he finally died. He dropped his chest plate, but that was about it. After beating that boss, I for some reason got access to all of the redstone wiring in the dungeon, which was pretty weird, but most importantly, I could now break blocks. I started digging down to where Shelob was, and it turns out they were completely inside of a wall. So I vein mined a massive area and fell into the spider pit. I got poisoned and covered in these green webs, but I was able to hit the boss still, so I easily took it out. It spawned a few cave spiders, and it also dropped spider leather and spider venom, but I couldn't really use either of those, so I guess they would be a trophy. The next day I put the boss shops that I got on display, and I also put up the regenerating slime balls from Xeraxis and also a shield that I got from the Illager dungeon because there was no drops from the boss there, so I had to use the shield instead. My next goal was to get a full set of Nightfall Armor. This was made from the drops that the Ender Titans give, so I had to find more of those. I actually already knew the location of one, so I went to the no man's land that I got my armor from. I got to it towards the end of day 88, knocked it off the pillar, and then fell down and took it out. It, however, did not give me enough drops for the full set of armor, so I had to go find more. I spent days 89 to 93 just hunting for Ender Titans. The entire hunt really sucked because not only were the pillars insanely rare, but when I did find them, they might actually have an Ender Golem instead, which is completely useless to me. So yeah, this was definitely a struggle. And the last Titan that I found wasn't even on a pillar, it was just chilling in the middle of a field. I had never seen that before, but I guess that was a way to find them as well. I have no idea. After getting all the hide, I went home and made the full Nightfall Armor set, and then I used the Ender Golem horns to make the sword, and I put them on display on an armor stand. I then moved the dragon egg and put in one more item frame that I wanted to fill. Day 94, I was finally going to use the Wither Skulls from before. I went to a nearby woodlands biome and I summoned the Wither. I feel like every Wither fight is pure chaos and kinda hard to describe, but I'm going to try my best. So when the Wither spawned, it flew off and started freaking out on the ground, letting me get off a ton of damage with my dagger. After it calmed down, it flew into the air and started spamming explosions, so I threw a bunch of throwing knives at it, and some of the knives definitely got lost in the process. Either they got destroyed by the explosions or thrown too far away to return. I don't know, I just definitely lost quite a few of them. Regardless, I got it up below half HP with my throwing knives, and then once in the second phase, I swapped to my normal dagger, and a few moments later, I took it out, defeating the Wither. I I finished day 94 by putting the Nether Star on display in the final item frame. Day 95, I had two main things that I wanted to do. And one of them was these castles. There were castles with knights, and I had not done a single one the entire time because I was a little bit too scared. But it was finally time. There was actually a castle right near my base too, which was perfect. I grappled up one of the towers and assassinated all the archers. I then went down the ladder and backstabbed a heavily armed guard, but he survived and alerted the rest of the knights. I get completely swarmed and I fought off most of them, but I was getting overwhelmed, so I retreated back up the tower with my grappling hook. I jumped back down and took out the rest of the knights in that area, and then I made my way over to the next tower and took out all the archers. I went down and fought off all the knights in that area, and the ones that tried to escape got a nice throwing knife to the back. I repeated that process 2 more times, and eventually the entire wall was cleared. Then I discovered this very enjoyable mechanic with the grappling hook. I could pull enemies to me and assassinate them from above, which was really fun, but then I grappled to the ground and I pulled myself directly into the pit of knights, which could have been very dangerous. I was able to fight them all off with my dagger, and then most of them had run off during the fight because they got too low because of my poison, so I tracked them down and took out the rest of the knights in the main area. I then went to the building and cleared all the knights there as well, and then I looted the chests, and oh my god, the loot was insane. Tons of iron, diamonds, food, and the knights also gave a ton of experience. I really should have done one of these sooner, but I was a coward. I found one last knight and I assassinated him, allowing me to see mobs through walls. I used that to determine that the place was completely clear and this castle was mine. Day 96, I went down this one ladder that I found in the castle, and I found a ton of diamond blocks. They said fire resistance, so I checked the hallway, and sure enough, it was a lava trap. I broke what I thought was all the sticky pistons, and then I mined the diamonds, and apparently the other side had also, been trapped, so I dropped all the diamonds into lava. So that was great. Pretty tragic, but it's not like I needed them anyway, so no big deal. I headed home to make banners, but I needed more wool to have enough, so I went to find another pirate ship. I found one at the end of that day, and I took out the pirates. I grabbed the wool, and I also got a cool banner as a trophy. Once home, I put that banner on display along with one of the old illager ones, just to make it symmetrical. Then, day 97, I made the rest of my banners, and I spent the entire day replacing all the banners on the castle with my own, officially claiming the castle as mine. And then I'm kind of ashamed to admit this, I didn't know what I was going to do after this, so I spent the entirety of day 98 trying to think of that one final thing that I wanted to do for day 100. I looked through all my chests and I googled all the mods that I had installed, and then I saw it. I grabbed the king's crown that I had gotten from the dungeon earlier, and I combined it with an emerald and these memory items that I got from the mobs in the desert. And this cursed the king's crown. On day 99, I went into a desert and I placed down a skeleton skull. I right-clicked the skull with the crown and lightning struck, summoning the skeleton king. He didn't notice me at first, but when he did, he immediately teleported and went for a slam. I got some hits off, and then he summoned skeletons to help him out. I fought off the skeletons, but then I realized that he would just keep summoning them over and over, so I started attacking him directly. Once he was below half HP, he gave me Wither, and then he began summoning even more skeletons. I killed them all, but I could not find the king anywhere. And then I saw him way off in the middle of nowhere, completely lost. Not the brightest boss that I've ever fought, not gonna lie. Because he didn't see me approach, I stabbed him in the back in true assassin style. That spooked him and he tried to run away, but it was too late and I took out the Skeleton King. Really cool boss, but no match for me. When he died, a chest spawned and I looted it and I got emblems of King, a spectral dagger, Azrael's scythe, and also the crown of rule. Tons of trophies from that guy. One of them was even a dagger, which was fitting, but even if I had the time to use it, it kinda sucked, so I wouldn't anyways. I ended day 99 by making Knight Armor and then I put it on display along with all of the Skeleton King's drops. Then, on day 100, I put 2 more armor stands at the very top. One was for my onyx armor and dragon helmet along with my throwing knives. The other for my assassin's armor and my diamond dagger. I then placed down 2 more item frames. In one, I put my grappling hook because it had served me very well, and in the other, I put my pork chop. Literal MVP pork chop, carried the entire 100 days, not even exaggerating. MVP. But yeah, all of my stuff was on display now. The Skeleton King was defeated, I had taken over an entire castle, and I had become the ultimate assassin. And now, the assassin journey has come to an end. And that was 100 days as an assassin in hardcore Minecraft. Thank you everybody for watching. Be sure to like the video and comment and subscribe and all that fun stuff. And I will see you all in the next video. Later.